You have no memory of the first 3 years of your life. Not a single one. The moment you were born, the first time you walked, the first word you ever spoke, every face that leaned over your crib, every sound, every smell, every sensation from the years when your entire world was being built around you. Gone. Completely and permanently erased. And you have never once questioned this, because everyone else is the same. But imagine that changed. Imagine that starting right now, every human being on Earth could suddenly access every memory from the moment of birth. Not just childhood memories, birth memories. The full, unedited record of everything you experienced before language existed to organize it. Most people assume it would be wonderful. A gift, the missing years of their own life, suddenly returned. They would be wrong, and the reason why will change how you think about your own mind forever. Here is what nobody tells you about infant memory. It does not disappear because your brain was too immature to form memories. Babies form memories constantly. Researchers at the University of Toronto, led by Paul Franklin, discovered that infants actually create new neurons in the hippocampus at a ferocious rate, a process called neurogenesis. And here is the cruel twist. That same neurogenesis that helps babies learn so rapidly is precisely what destroys the memories they already formed. New neurons integrating into existing memory circuits essentially overwrite what was already there. Your earliest memories were not lost because they were never recorded. They were erased by the very process that made your brain smarter. So what happens when that erasure is reversed? The first thing you would experience is not recognition. It is sensation without context. Infant experience is not structured the way adult memory is. Adults remember in narratives, a beginning, a sequence of events, an ending. Infants experience the world as pure, overwhelming sensation, with no framework to organize it, no language to label it, no sense of time to place it in sequence. What gets returned to you is not a home video of your early life. It is a flood of raw, unprocessed sensory data that your adult brain has no architecture to handle. The light that hit your eyes on the day you were born was the brightest thing you had ever experienced. You had no concept of what light was, no word for it, no category for it. Just an overwhelming, undifferentiated blast of sensation that your newborn nervous system registered as something close to pain. That memory returned to you now without context or language would not feel like remembering. It would feel like being hit. And that is just the first second of your life. Within minutes of the memory switch turning on, neurologists around the world would begin receiving the same reports. Patients overwhelmed by sensory input they cannot organize or explain, not hallucinations. Real memories, returned in their original unprocessed form. The clinical term researchers use for this kind of memory flooding is hypermnesia. But hypermnesia has never previously involved memories from before language itself existed. Your brain would be trying to process infant experience through adult neural architecture. The mismatch alone would be enough to cause what psychologists call a dissociative episode, a temporary disconnection from your current sense of self as your brain is overwhelmed by an identity it no longer recognizes. Because here is the thing about infant memory that nobody thinks about. Before language, there is no self, not in the way adults understand it. The developmental psychologist Philippe Rochat at Emory University has spent decades studying the emergence of self-awareness in infants and found that a coherent sense of self, the feeling of being a continuous person with a past and a future, does not emerge until somewhere between 18 months and 2 years. Before that, there is experience, there is sensation, there is response, but there is no one home in the way you currently understand yourself to be home. What gets returned to you in those early memories is not your experience. It is the experience of a being that did not yet know it was you. And this is where it gets genuinely complicated, because not all of what gets returned would be neutral sensation. Some of it would be pain. Medical procedures on infants were, for most of human history, performed without anesthesia, not out of cruelty, but out of a belief, held by mainstream medicine until the 1980s, that newborns could not meaningfully feel pain the way adults do. Research since then has comprehensively proven this wrong. Infants feel pain acutely. They simply cannot remember it. Until now. In a world where infant memories are suddenly accessible, Every person who underwent medical intervention in their first years of life would have those memories returned to them without warning. Globally, hundreds of millions of people would be suddenly confronted with experiences of acute pain they had no conscious knowledge of ever having had. The psychological implications of this are almost impossible to fully calculate. Trauma researchers have long understood that the most damaging experiences are not necessarily the ones we remember clearly. They are the ones that leave neurological traces without conscious narrative. Returning those experiences to conscious memory would not resolve them. It would name them. And naming a trauma the mind had buried without the support of therapeutic context is one of the most destabilizing things a human brain can experience. But here's where the story turns in an unexpected direction, because not all infant memory is pain. Most of it is something else entirely, something that adult human experience almost never produces. Researchers studying infant consciousness, including the neuroscientist Alison Gopnik at Berkeley, describe the infant experience of the world as something closer to a meditative state than anything else in adult life. Without the filtering mechanism of a developed prefrontal cortex, infants experience everything with full attention, simultaneously, without hierarchy. Every sound is equally present. Every sensation is equally vivid. Every face is equally significant. Adults spend enormous effort and years of practice trying to achieve this kind of present-moment awareness. Infants live there permanently. What gets returned in those memories, underneath the overwhelm and the sensory flood, is also that. A quality of experience that most humans have never consciously accessed. Pure presence, pure attention. The world as it is before the brain learns to filter it. Some people, once the initial shock of the memory flood subsides, would find something in those earliest memories they did not expect. The face of a parent, leaning over them, not yet understood as a parent, and not yet classified as safe or familiar or loved. Just a face, seen with the full, unfiltered attention of a mind that had never seen anything before. Enormous, vivid, completely consuming. Before you knew what love was, you experienced it in its purest neurological form. A face above you, full attention on you, warmth and presence with no agenda behind it. You have spent your entire adult life looking for that feeling in various forms without ever being able to fully explain what you were looking for. And now, finally, you would know where it came from. The neuroscientist Daniel Siegel describes early attachment experiences as the template on which all future emotional connection is built. The memories you cannot access are not just the record of your first years. They are the foundation of every relationship you have ever had, every emotional pattern you carry, every instinct you have about trust and safety and love. You cannot remember being a baby. But being a baby made you everything you are, and somewhere in those lost years, before you had words for any of it, before you knew your own name, before you had any idea that you were a person who would one day be sitting here wondering about all of this, you were already becoming you. The memories are gone, but what they built is not. You are the proof that they existed,